New ways of looking at the world are certainly possible now, because what we have in the sky is an opposition between the small mind and the larger mind that's more philosophical, that's more expansive, it's more broad in the scope of things. And that is because Mercury will oppose Jupiter on November 18th. This presents needing to have substance to our promises, needing to have plans to achieve our goals, etc. I'm going to be discussing this aspect and the other aspects in this video going on November 17th and 18th. Welcome to my channel. I'm Everett Carney. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe, you can like this video, do all the things that help get this video out to more individuals. So let's start out by talking about what's going on the different days that I'm going to be discussing here. And then when I'm done, I have pulled oracle cards from the Sacred Traveler Oracle by Denise Lynn for each day. So let's begin with November 17th. The first aspect we have going on is we have the moon coming into a trine with Lilith. It's very, very important that when the moon trines Lilith, um, that we are mindful not to get overwhelmed by emotional revelations that we may have, emotional realizations, insights that we may have to our individual experiences and our individual lives as in generalized. So we need to be really, really mindful that when we have a revelation, when we have an awakening Kundalini moment and a star moment, that we do not get swept up in a tizzy because of that, because we're really, really focusing on what is the revelation, realizing it, and then just moving on when it's time to move on, not getting so obsessed with it. It's important to tap into our inner passions. What is our passions? What lights us up? What really gets us moving, gets us going? And our shadow self, really, really, really looking at connecting with our shadows, really getting into the mixionis of our shadow self. Facing our shadows, moving through our shadows, all those kind of things like that are highlighted now. This is good for navigating intense emotions with grace, with patience, with an opportune sort of agreement of what we're sort of doing here. And we can find that our greatest assets stem from our intuition and raw emotions as well. So, what is our greatest help, our greatest support, our greatest enigmas that come from our intuition and our emotions that we can gain support from our intuition if we're only willing to receive the guidance from our intuition? This is about asserting your inner needs and independence from home life. You may feel the very, very strong emotional need to be independent, to move away from your family, to live on your own, to move to a vacant house, to move to a crane house, whatever is the way that we can look at moving away from our immediate environment in order to feel more emotionally free, more emotionally uplifted. What do we need in order to feel emotionally secure? And that may require our independent need for what we desire. We may find that this is a great time to explore deeper truths, really, really looking into our deeper truths and what messages that these truths hold within us, that the wisdom that they hold. This is good for self-exploration. This is very, very important that we have deep awareness of what's going on in our environment, what we're feeling, what we're experiencing. It's important to be aware of these things, and to sort of be on the observer hatch when it comes to this kind of thing. Another important thing is self-liberation. Where do we need to liberate ourselves? Where do we need to free ourselves from the chains that bind us to our books? From the chains that bind us to our immediate environment? Where do we need to liberate ourselves and say no and be cast out of society because society doesn't really serve us? But moving out of a limiting circumstance into a more liberating circumstance. This is ultimately what this is about. Another aspect we have going on November 17th is that the moon will oppose Mercury. So when the moon in Gemini is opposite Mercury in Sagittarius at this time, we're more intellectual with the moon in Gemini. We're more thinking to feel. We're very sort of scattered and all over the place. That's another sort of aspect of the moon in Gemini. Our energies are sort of fragmented over here, over there, and everywhere with the moon in Gemini. So when the moon opposes Mercury, this is a time where we may not be perceiving things clearly. We may not see things as they are. We may be caught in ideal of a perception of those things. And so we may perceive somebody insulting us or attacking us, or we may become very defensive when they're actually just offering good advice for us to take into our systems and to integrate and probably to act upon. So, um, we need to perceive things as clearly and as objectively as we can. So this may also come to play as we may become reactive of an emotional trigger. We may be very, very reactive to a sort of windswept, trigger that may come at us that is on the emotional range of liners. So, certain things may trigger us, and we may become very, very reactive to that. There can also be a difficulty with moderating yourself at this time, moderating how much you're speaking and how much you're listening. Are you overspeaking or are you not speaking enough? Really, really moderating these things and balancing these things is what this calls for now. You may try to talk yourself out of following your intuition as well. That may be another aspect of this. So, you have these intuitive hits, you have these intuitive messages, but you're suddenly finding that you want to talk yourself out of listening and following to your intuition. Now is not the time to do this. Now is the time to trust your intuition and just go with it. You don't have to have an explanation of it in your logical mind. It's just your vibes, and it's just moving with the vibe. This could also be good when it comes to seeing the world out of a fear-based lens instead of how it actually is. We may be seeing it from a lens of feeling afraid of the world situations and what it has to offer. We may feel afraid of the liners and viners that has to come to us. But can we see the world with the good, the bad, um, the sort of advantages and disadvantages, both and seeing the polarities of both and is what this actually calls for at this time. So it becomes really, really critical for us to see the world as it actually is. We may be abandoning our logic and we may strictly rely on our emotions. So, on the other side of the spectrum, we may just abandon logic, look only at our emotions, look only on what is emotionally going on within us. That may be part of this as well. So we need to be more objective of how we look at the facts and information. It's very, very critical now to have an objective point of view, an objective scope of view, and really look at the facts and figures really, really critically and very clearly as they are as much as possible. There may be judgments that may be clouding your emotional biases at this time. So, what are these judgments? What are these criticisms in your mind that are keeping you from seeing things the way they are, that are certain emotional biases of how we feel about things clouding our judgment? This is what it is about. So it's very, very critical now to go into meditation and reflection, to allow ourselves time to meditate, to reflect, to contemplate what we need to. We also need to observe our feelings, not getting caught in our feelings, but observe our feelings with an open-minded attitude and a curiosity, thinking, I wonder why I'm feeling this way. I'm curious as to why this emotion is inside of me, why I'm feeling this way. What's actually going on here? Two things that can come about at this time um, is self-doubt and anxiety that may come about for us now. So, we may have self-doubt, we may have anxiety. These two things can come about at this time. And so there is a critical dance between the heart and the mind that we need to really look at. And so how we need to evaluate how have our past experiences shaped our thought patterns. It's really critical that we look at this. Um, how have these things shaped our way of thinking about things? Um, when we're feeling hurt, is it because something triggered our past wounds or our emotional wounds from the past? That's what we need to really look at. And then how are our actual emotions and feelings serving our healing? This is what we need to also look at as well. Another aspect we have going on is that we have the moon in Gemini conjunct Jupiter in Gemini, around 20 degrees. So, um, this puts a focus on spiritual enlightenment and advancement of status. You may have a greater sense of empathy, a greater sense of I want to give, I want to serve, I want to be generous. That can help you grow spiritually. You may have a greater influence on those around you. You may be in an optimistic and hopeful mood. And so Um, a relationship with an older person could become a mentor to you. This person that is older, that is more knowledgeable, that is more an authority than you are, maybe a mentor, maybe a supporting guide to you, maybe the eagle in the Golden Eagle song, you know, that may come about and may have a lot of wisdom to give you. So, that kind of thing may come about. Um, so finances and emotional security will receive a boost at this time. You may be feeling in tune with the struggles of other people that may be coming about. And so it's very, very critical now to make realistic promises, set realistic goals, not to set your sights on a future goal that you will not be able to achieve in actuality, particularly as the suspect passes, and also not over giving or over promising and not delivering on those promises. It's very, very critical that our generosity is coming from our heart, not from a place of depletion. And then is how you're giving sustainable? That's also important to look at. And so, what truths are you covering? And how can they further your existence, making it more authentic to you personally? This is very, very good for seeking truth as an opportunity for growth, really seeking truth in this kind of way. So, this becomes very, very critical now. So, seeking truth is really very important for opportunities for growth. This is good for any kind of group work or community involvement that can be sort of coming about for us now. Maybe we'll need to get in groups to help our community, to serve our community. And so, how can we foster a sense of belonging and mutual support in our relationships? How can we bring these qualities to the forefront and make it so that we are having belonging and mutual support? Um, and so a more inclusive and compassionate community is what we're really, really seeking now. And we want to be included. We want a community full of people of like minds, of compassionate hearts, of loving, generous, unconditional love. So that's also what we need to cultivate now. And the card that I pulled for this particular day is the card um, from the Sacred Traveler Oracle by Denise Flynn. I'm using the card Staying Focused. This is the card that I got for November 17th. Hold the course. That's what it says. So this is about not veering off course, not being distracted by all the galingalings of all the other things that could happen, of all the shiny things, of all the dark things, of whatever is on the sides of our path, and really focusing on a given path and staying, having a laser focus toward that path. And when we focus toward that path and put the hard work in, we will succeed. So we need to remain focused on our goals and objective. We are not about losing focus now. We need to hold the course and not getting distracted, focusing on also what is inspiring and encouraging for us and engaging for us rather than what is negative, what makes us feel sad, mad, angry, whatever the emotion is. Let's move on to November 18th. The very first aspect we have going on is we have the moon square Neptune. Now, whenever we have a moon in difficult aspect with Neptune, we may be getting swept up in a dreamlike or confused state. We find that feelings can be more intense and less clear, less crystal clear for us to look at. Um, and so our emotional reactions may be created from idealized negative perceptions. So we're not seeing things as they are, we're viewing things as we perceive them to be. And so wishful thinking can cloud judgment as well. That's something very, very important with this as well. This is very critical to avoid confusion and disappointment as much as you can, as much as you possibly can. Avoid this confusion and, whatever disappointment that can come out for you at this time. And so we need to have self-discovery, but we need to approach it with caution and awareness. You may not be seeing the truth of situations. You may be seeing a perception or idealized view of a situation, not how the situation actually is. Um, we may be assuming things about others that are not true about them. That may be another sort of casualty of this, is that kind of thing. Um, We also need to try to stay as present to reality as we possibly can. Um, that's also super duper important. Now, another aspect we have going on is the sun will trine Neptune. So the sun's in Scorpio, Neptune's in Pisces. They will join together at 27 degrees of Scorpio and Pisces. So there may be a heightened sensitivity to your environment now. You may be feeling very empathetic towards other people also. This is good for inviting romance into your life. This is good for greater confidence in yourself and your intuition, really being confident in these things. You are less likely to be demanding at this time, more likely to be open-hearted, loving unconditionally, loving from a compassionate point of view. That's how you're most likely to be at this time. This is about putting your creative talents to work for others' benefit. This is really, really critical that we are doing this now, as we're putting our creative talents to the test. This is about setting goals to manifesting what you want in the future. What do you want for your future that can sort of come about as the goals that you want to manifest? It's also critical to understand our place in the world, where we stand. It's about staying true to your spiritual ideals without sacrificing your needs to emotionally secure, for for emotional security and comfort. Really staying true to these bigger ideals. Um, and so your ego could benefit from a more spiritual outlook as well. That's where your ego can benefit from seeing things from the eyes of your soul, from the lens of your soul instead of from the lens of your ego. So there is greater artistic and creative talents that come into focus now. This is about learning about religion and spiritual beliefs that can sort of come about for us now. So we're more artistic, we're more creative, and we're learning about religion and spiritual belief. So this is good for socializing and partnership also. Relationships, you could have more relationships with more spiritual people, more spiritually oriented people. So this is a very positive quality for us to look at now. The other aspect that we have going on is that we have Mercury opposite Jupiter. So Mercury is in Sagittarius, Jupiter is in Gemini. Now, both of these signs are both in their detrimental positions because Mercury in Sagittarius opposite Mercury rules Gemini, Jupiter in Gemini, which Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So there is a mutual perception reflection that they are sort of um, giving off for each other in the sky right now. So they're directly across the sky from each other. So you may have a lot of big ideas and grand plans at this time, but it's important to be really realistic about our plans and ideas, that we're not stretching for the skylines and the bylines things, that we're not overdoing it, that we're not promising too much and we're not going to deliver on it. Really focusing on what our ideas and grand plans are and fulfilling those and committing to those. We may be feeling more friendly and optimistic at this time. We may be skipping over details or believing that we can handle, you can handle more than you actually can. So, um, you may be skipping over the little details of things, maybe only seeing the big picture of things. And maybe feeling like I can do this, I can rise above this mountain, I can, do all these things, but it's more than you actually can do in your physical reality. So it's important to keep that in mind. So, are you coachable? Are you guidable? Are you open to professional advice? This is really, really important to look at this now, as you may be put in a situation where you have to be open to this sort of advice that can come at you now. So, um, are you open to receiving the advice from your professionals, from your authority figures? Um, so this is good for questioning your plans, beliefs, and ideas, questioning these things, making sure that they resonate. This is good for writing, debating, or public speaking as well. So these things can sort of come about as great avenues for you to pursue. Um, for you to pursue in this kind of kind of way. So beliefs and opinions far away from social norms may cause controversy. So, you may have a lot of beliefs and opinions that may stray away from social norms. So that may be something to sort of keep in your back pocket now. So you may be overthinking things or overanalyzing things due to Mercury's highly intellectual influence. And so Jupiter is about the big ideas. However, they may lack substance. They may lack what is the actual bricks and mortar of this idea? What is the actual fulfillment of this idea? The commitment of this idea that can make it into what it is. So you may be lacking this now. You may be faltering at the sidelines. You may be looking at a certain situation going, oh, I can do that, but in actuality, you can't. So, realistic guidelines and ambitious goals need to come into greater balance out right now. So, realisticness and ambitious goals need to come into greater balance at this time as well. Now, we have the moon squaring the north node. So when the moon is square the north node, we may be pulled in many, many different directions all at once. We may be finding it very, very difficult to choose a certain path to go down. We may be scattered with all these different paths, all these different options, or faltering to decide what path do we need, are we willing to go down? Um, you may find that your aims and objectives might not be clear and straightforward at this time. You may be sort of scattered all over, and these things might not be clear and straightforward for you at this particular time. That's something that you may find as well. Which emotional cues stem from insecurities and which come from higher wisdom? It's really, really important to evaluate these things. Um, you know, of how we are looking at our insecurities and how, what are they stemming from? What is our intuition stemming from? Our insecurities, or is it stemming from higher wisdom, higher place of wisdom and truth within ourselves? So, discernment to these things might be more difficult. So it's difficult to discern what is from our insecurities and what is from higher truth. We may be forced to rely on ourselves as well, so this may be sort of an issue that we may be needing to come about at this time for all of our sakes and all of our breaks. Um, really feeling the forced need to rely upon ourselves and that we can't gain support from others. So it's important to be self-reliant in this case. And so the south node of the moon, which is currently in Libra, can destroy the sensitivity of the moon, bringing out a hurtful personality. You may be feeling distraught by others' lack of cooperation, feeling like you have bad timing. So other people might not be cooperating with you, going along with what your plans are. You may be feeling like you have bad timing as well. So whatever that may mean for you is really critical now. So you may need others' validation, but it's imperative that you nurture yourself in your own path, that you go down your own path, that you fulfill your own path. So, you may need validation from others, but this is about you being willing to go down your own individual path on an independent basis. There may be difficult relationships with women that may come about at this time as well. Now, the moon will oppose Venus. So the moon is in Cancer, Venus is in Capricorn at this particular point in time. So the moon is in its domicile place, in its domicile position, which focuses on our emotional needs, our emotional security. Are we being nurtured or are we not being nurtured? These things may come into greater focus with the moon in Cancer. So the moon is opposite Venus at this point. So we need to evaluate, are your relationships based on genuine mutual love, or are they not based on these things? We need to also lower our standards in relationships. We may be lowering our standards in relationships because we genuinely want connection and greater harmony. But we may be lowering our standards and settling for a mundane partner as opposed to a partner that's actually right for us and serves us. You may seek pleasure from food or drugs if you're not getting it from other people. This may be sort of a big area of focus now. So, you may be seeking pleasure at all costs if you're not getting it from a certain source. You may be seeking it from other sources. You may be feeling the need for connection, but it might disable that um, in relationships at this time. So, you're feeling a need for connection, a deep need for your need for connection to be fulfilled. And so, you may be facing the consequences of unstable relationships or unresolved tension with loved ones. So these sort of things can sort of come about for you at this time. That these relationships can be unstable and maybe need stability, may be brought up. There may be tension with loved ones that needs to be resolved. So you may be looking to relationships to find personal security and self-worth. Fulfilling your emotional security and self-worth, other people feeling like other people define your self-worth. But in actuality, you define your own self-worth. You are the only person to make yourself worthy of being you just as you are. So it's really critical that you are doing things that have you feel a greater sense of your own self-worth. It is important to do things that ground yourself, to stay grounded, to meditate, to get outside in nature, to do things that ground yourself as best as you can to ground yourself. The second card that I pulled, this card is for November 18th, is the card Faraway Places. Get ready for new horizons. So this is about expanding your horizons, getting out of your own backyard, your own comfort zone in ways of being. This is not the time to stay small and stuck in a comfort zone, stuck in certain ways of being. This is time to get out there, travel to explore new places, to expand your mind, to expand your horizons, read books on different subjects, travel to new places that you've never been before, take a new route to work, all these kind of things like that. Find ways of doing new things that expand your horizons, new ways of doing things, new ways of going about your life. Um, embarking on new adventures in your life. Are you willing to go into new places? That's the question. Are you willing to go on new adventures? And so this is time to get yourself out of the routines and habit patterns that you're used to and expand your mind or expand your being in these types of ways. So that is your astrology and oracle readings for November 17th and 18th. Let me know what you like about this video down in the comment section below. I really like reading your comments. I really like seeing your feedback. So please send it my way. And like this video, share this with somebody who would like this video also. And have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.